It wasn't the first time I'd crossed paths with her. Every time I bumped into Karen, she'd throw me those condescending looks, like she had some right to judge me. She's one of those people who treats the HOA like it's her kingdom, trying to make the rules for everyone else while sticking her nose in other people's business. I've seen her roll her eyes when a new family moves in or when someone parks on the wrong side of the street. And yeah, I get it. HOAs are there to keep things looking nice, but she took it to a whole new level. I was just minding my business, walking my dog one afternoon, when she started her usual routine. She saw me standing by my car, gave me that look, and then the words came out, "Oh, you're just a renter, right?" She had this smug grin, almost like she was looking down at me. That's when I decided to stay calm, but inside, I couldn't help but laugh. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just any tenant. Those properties she thought she controlled, I owned the loans on them. She didn't know who she was talking to. But that didn't stop her from acting like she was in charge. Something about that moment made me realize I wasn't the one who needed to watch my back. She was. After that awkward encounter, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Karen's attitude had always rubbed me the wrong way, but now it felt personal. It wasn't just her overbearing HOA antics or her need to control everything around her. It was the way she sized people up without knowing a thing about them. I started noticing how she treated everyone in the neighborhood, always playing the role of the self-appointed enforcer of the rules. And while I wasn't one to stir the pot, I could tell she was starting to view me as a threat. She couldn't just let it slide. The weird thing was, I never intended to get involved in the HOA drama. I'm not one of those people who loves confrontation. But now, it felt like I had no choice but to stand my ground. Karen had crossed a line, and her assumptions about me were becoming more than just irritating. They were dangerous. I had a mortgage to pay, sure, but I'd also worked hard to get where I was. And I wasn't about to let someone like her treat me like I was beneath her. As the weeks passed, the tension only grew. Karen seemed to be everywhere, popping up at neighborhood meetings, sending emails to everyone about petty rules, and always making sure her voice was the loudest in the room. But I could sense something wasn't right with her, like she was hiding something. Maybe it was just my imagination, but I had this gut feeling that the more I dug into her little world, the more I'd uncover about her life and what she had to lose. I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, but I knew I had to be careful. Karen wasn't just annoying anymore. She was a ticking time bomb, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be caught in the blast. It all came to a head one evening when Karen knocked on my door. I wasn't expecting company, especially not from her. When I opened it, there she was, standing with her arms crossed, wearing that same smug expression she always had. But there was something different this time. She was a little too calm, like she had something planned. "I need to talk to you," she said, voice a little too sharp. I wasn't sure what this was about. Was she going to apologize for being rude? Highly unlikely. Or was this something else entirely? I invited her in, trying to stay neutral, but I could feel the tension in the air. We sat down, and for the first few moments, she just stared at me like she was trying to read me. I didn't say anything, waiting for her to make the first move. Finally, she spoke up. "I know about the mortgage," she said, her tone now a mix of accusation and suspicion. I froze. How did she know? I'd never told anyone. The only explanation was that she'd been digging into my finances. The realization hit me like a wave. She'd been watching me, trying to find any little detail she could use against me. But why? Karen's eyes narrowed. "You think you can just show up here, pretending to be some big shot, when you're really just a renter." Her words dripped with venom, but I could see the fear behind her eyes. She knew she was losing control. "I'm not pretending anything," I said slowly, keeping my voice steady. "But you've got the wrong idea about me." She stood up abruptly, pacing now, like she was thinking through her next move. "I know what you're doing," she muttered under her breath, more to herself than to me. "And I won't let you take it all away." My heart started to race. What was she talking about? What did she think I was doing? The air felt thick with anticipation as I realized this wasn't just about me and her anymore. Something bigger was unfolding, something dangerous. I could feel the walls closing in. What was Karen going to do next? And just how far was she willing to go to protect herself? Karen's eyes were darting around the room like she was looking for something, maybe a way out or something she could use against me. I had no idea what was going on in her mind, but the tension in the air was suffocating. I leaned forward, trying to stay calm, but every instinct in me was screaming to run. Then, just as I thought she was about to storm out, she stopped. She looked me dead in the eye, and for the first time, I saw something that wasn't her usual smug confidence. It was desperation. You don't get it, do you? You think you have all the power because of some mortgage, she said, her voice barely a whisper. But you're wrong. My heart skipped a beat. What was she talking about? The silence stretched out like a thick fog, and I waited for her to finish. I had no clue where this was heading, but I was pretty sure I wasn't going to like it. Suddenly, she pulled something from her bag and tossed it on the table. It was a folder, one of those thick, legal-looking folders, with papers spilling out. My mind raced as I glanced at the documents. They weren't anything I recognized. That's what's really going on, Karen said, her voice shaking now. You think you own those properties? Think again. You've been played. I leaned forward, heart pounding. This was a game changer. What are you talking about? She let out a harsh laugh, almost bitter. You think you bought them, but someone else is pulling the strings. You've been caught up in a scam, and I'm the only one who can help you. A cold chill ran down my spine. This wasn't just about her ego anymore. It was about something far bigger, something I wasn't prepared for. I'm in over my head, and so are you, she continued, eyes now filled with a mix of fear and fury. But you don't know who you're really dealing with. This goes way beyond the HOA. You've been tangled up in a web, and the people behind it, they don't let go easily. The walls felt like they were closing in even more, and the weight of her words hung over me like a storm cloud. I had no idea who these people were, but I could sense the danger. Whatever was happening here, it was only going to get worse. I glanced down at the papers in front of me. Was she telling the truth? And if so, who was behind all of this? The answers felt just out of reach, but one thing was clear. I was in deeper than I ever imagined. And Karen, for all her bravado, might have been in the same sinking boat. I stared at the papers in front of me, my mind racing. I wasn't sure if Karen was trying to manipulate me or if she was actually telling the truth. She had made it clear that things weren't what they seemed, and I had to admit, the thought of someone pulling the strings behind the scenes sent a shiver down my spine. But just as I was about to ask her for more answers, there was a loud knock on the door. I froze. Karen's eyes darted to the door before she stood up quickly, her entire body tense. You need to get out of here, she whispered harshly. Now. Before I could say anything, she shoved the folder into my hands and made a motion for me to leave. My heart pounded in my chest, the confusion and fear rising as I backed away from her. Then the door opened, and there, standing in the doorway, was the last person I expected to see. My neighbor, Tom, a quiet, harmless guy who lived 2 doors down. I'd always thought he was just a regular guy, never involved in any drama. But now his cold, calculating gaze told me everything I needed to know. I told you she would find out eventually, Tom said, his voice calm but menacing. You didn't think you could keep this quiet forever, did you? Karen turned pale, her face drained of color. You were supposed to stay out of this, she snapped at him, but Tom didn't flinch. I was paralyzed, the pieces finally falling into place. This was no simple HOA feud. Tom wasn't just a quiet neighbor. He was in on whatever shady operation Karen was trying to cover up. They were both working together, pulling the strings behind my mortgage. But there was something even darker happening here. Tom stepped forward, his eyes locking on mine. You're not the only one who's been played, he said with a smirk. You've been chasing after the wrong people. The real game was never about properties. It was about getting you involved in this web. And now we've got you exactly where we want you." I stumbled back, the weight of his words hitting me like a punch to the gut. But just as I was about to ask what the hell he meant, there was a loud noise, shouting from outside the door. "Don't let them get away." I whipped around to see a group of people rushing toward the house, all wearing dark clothes and carrying briefcases. I didn't recognize any of them, but the way they moved made it clear they weren't ordinary neighbors. They were professionals, and they were after me. Before I could process what was happening, Tom grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the back door. "You're coming with us," he said, his grip like iron. I tried to fight back, but he was too strong, driving me through the house. As I struggled, my mind raced. What was going on? Who were these people? And how was Karen, who had been so eager to protect herself, connected to all of this? Tom yanked me into the alley behind the house, and that's when everything came crashing down. He shoved me toward a black van, and I had just enough time to realize what was happening. I was being kidnapped. But just as I was about to scream, something unexpected happened. A loud crash echoed through the alley, followed by the sound of tires screeching. The van's back door swung open, and another figure appeared, someone I never expected to see. It was Karen. But not the same Karen. This Karen was different. She was holding a gun, pointing it directly at Tom. "Let him go," she said, her voice steady. "Now." Tom froze, his eyes widening in shock. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed, looking at her like she had betrayed him. Karen's lips curled into a bitter smile. "I'm doing what I should have done a long time ago. You thought I was the weak link, didn't you?" I could hardly believe what I was seeing. Karen, the woman who'd been bullying me for weeks, was now the one saving me. And Tom, he looked like he had no idea what was coming. Before I could process the shift, Karen motioned for me to get in the van. "Hurry, we don't have much time," she urged. I didn't hesitate. I jumped into the van, and as soon as I slammed the door, Karen turned the key. The engine rolled to life, and we sped off into the night, leaving Tom standing there, staring after us. But the real twist hit me just moments later, as Karen glanced over at me. "You were right," she said, her voice soft but serious. "I've been watching you, and it turns out you were right about me too." I stared at her, confused.